Hi, folks. This is Mountain Man coming to you from parts unknown. Anyway, I got on my title 40,000 foot view. How many times have we ever heard that? 40,000 foot view. Some of my new viewers may not have heard that saying, my new subscribers, and we'll try to break everybody into that kind of lingo as we go along. But imagine just one chessboard being the House of Representatives. And if you were looking down from 40,000 foot and you see them on the board, where they are on the board and what they're doing, like little ants moving around, that's the view certain people are getting of what we have in the House of Representatives through this exercise we've been watching as the House makes its moves. So I heard some stuff about Nancy having some texts, which we get into in a little bit, and what the SCOTUS is doing as far as the hearings. And I hope we got a good signal, folks. And if we don't, please bear with me and let me know, and I'll see if there's anything I can do. But I'm pretty much at a prime spot for getting a good signal through past efforts. We found out how to get a good signal. Hi, Nikki B. Hi, B Dog. Hi, Bubba. Finding Dory. How are you? So everybody's coming in. Hi, William. Wanda. How are you, Wanda? Karen. How are you doing, Karen? Lori. Everybody's coming in. That's good to see. I'm going to try to keep up with the chats, interesting tidbits, and see if anybody's heard any news or how everybody's vibe is doing. Now, I do want to start off by talking about the situation in Brazil. I am going to bring up that tape that I showed. I think Sean mentioned in the comments that the person they were saluting in that one video didn't have a scruffy little beard like Lulu had, the El Presidente of Brazil. And the reason being, that person that was being saluted by all the generals, turns out I mistook one creepy, drippy, droopy looking little Marxist for another creepy, droopy, drippy looking little Marxist. That person being saluted by the generals was actually the new Secretary of Defense. And if you'll remember in my broadcast last night, I was talking about Bolsonaro's had turned over basically the fate of the country to the Supreme Military Court, and that the Secretary of Defense was going to be in charge of this matter. But apparently Lulu moved very, very quickly and swore in his own Secretary of Defense. And I want to point out that the same thing happened here in our country. Mr. Presidente Biden, Biden, he appointed his head of the Pentagon, namely Lloyd Austin. But does that really mean that Lloyd Austin is running the show with the television generals? And as we know, DJT told us there's a difference between television generals and who is running the show. Hi, Happy Days. Hi, Sharon. Brighter Day. How you doing? Hi, Lucy. Reba. Debbie. So, hi, Melinda. So, and the other thing, too, is there's what I've heard brought up before, as far as them saluting him, turning and saluting, and a lot of the people that were commenting on Telegram and other places were saying that was tree, and then the last word is son, okay, of those generals. But They could be playing what's called the invisible man. The invisible man, if you remember the video, you had the fellow in the center and the generals turned around towards each other and saluted what appeared to be this creepy, droopy, drippy Marxist in between them. But if in their minds that was an invisible man, they're basically saluting each other, okay? Doing what they need to do to get their own 40,000-foot view of the players who were involved in what many are saying in their messaging from Brazil, that the country had been taken over with the assistance of the media through infiltration from foreign powers. So that is a blunt way of putting it, that many of us have been putting it in that way. And what you have is called captured territory. And I brought up in the past about the Bataan Death March, and when MacArthur left the Philippines and said, I shall return. Sometimes you have to surrender territory and you have to lose. Fighters that will be taken prisoner, or worse. That happens in wars. And so Bolsonaro basically fleeing the country, in my mind, to the safety of America, is similar to, if you read any history on Singapore, when Singapore was abandoned by the British, and how the Bataan Death March came about, and MacArthur evacuating from the fight in the Pacific. And he said, I shall return. And he did, but we had to take some lumps. So anyway, invisible man, they were saluting an invisible man, saluting each other, basically. That's one of the theories. But anyway, since we got that out of the way, he's already got his own Secretary of Defense, but is it real? Or is it Memorex? Remember those commercials? So we've been watching this drama on the floor, and I'm comparing this whole situation with the Biden, Mr. Biden, Biden, and his swearing in. And what are we drawing out? What gets drawn out? People who are willfully complicit, people who have maybe in the shadows and have to come out of the shadows to participate in supporting a government. And I'll give you another example. It's called the Vichy French, Vichy. The Vichy French, after the invasion of France. Let me get a sip of my coffee. And I mentioned Charles de Gaulle fled France, set up a government in exile. There was called the Vichy French, which set up a collaboration with the occupying force. And I can go into that in more detail, but I can say that it did not end well for those involved in operating the Vichy government. So that's another example. So with this exercise on Capitol Hill, first of all, with the midterm elections, a lot of strategies have been exposed. A lot of methods have been exposed. Modus operandi. You had enough from the 2020 selection where with Mr. D'Souza's movie coming out, I think that they were pressed to find as many willing people as in the past So they had to shift their strategy, and a lot of people in the shadows had to show their hands. So we found out a lot more, and we've had all the representatives of our federal government has been through the process. Okay, we've had the House, we've had the Senate, everybody involved has been through election cycles from 2016, 2018, 2020 to now 2022. So everybody that's got a backside in a chair in the federal government, we know what side they're on for the most part. And their methods of how they got there, who they're associated with, finding common links with who's friends with who's taking money from NGOs. And you know, when it gets to this point, there is, I'm sure, full authorization to monitor discussions, just like what you would if you had probable cause and a warrant on the mafia. You can bug their establishments, you can bug their phones, you can monitor their conversations. I feel that that's been going on for just about everybody in the government. And I think that that is something with DJT's statements that he is that a wartime president, was a wartime president, that we were at war. He said multiple times, I am confident in my own belief, my personal belief, that this nation has been in a war footing and that military law applies. And I have mentioned in the past, military law is different. Did you know that adultery is a crime? Okay. Under military law, you can go to Leavenworth or prison for adultery. Do you know that that's not a crime in civil law? So there are nuances and differences in the law, and what is a crime and not a crime when you are versus peacetime and being in a state of armed conflict. So these are all nuances we don't know about. What the as I'm want to say often, what the posture of the situation is. But there are people that do know, and so you keep all these things in mind, and it helps to calm the mind as to, hey, these things are going on, and you're not going to find out some fantastic thing, as many of us have been doing, bird dogging down rabbit holes and clickbait and fantastic stories. We're getting to a point where we can discuss things that are distressing and amazing enough that are simple matters of fact with our friends, provable facts, and we can get away from the rabbit holes and the sensationalism. Okay? And as I mentioned many times in the past, that was the purpose of my even starting these broadcasts. I don't know what the scenario is. There's very few people that know it all. And as we got from one of the drops, I'm not a prophet. You're not a prophet. Okay, you can reread those. So we have to understand there's a lot of variables that are not conspiracy. Fact, military law is different from civilian law. We are in a state of war. And I think the game board is being viewed from a 40,000-foot view. Hopefully that's making sense to a lot of people. And this exercise that we all witnessed, I was on Nikki's show earlier, right, Nikki B? How you doing? Earlier today, I kind of went on an impromptu. Hi, Wolfpack. And well, Karen, they are putting on a show for us, yes, but there's a reason. The show is, in a lot of ways, teaching. Look how much not everybody, but a lot of people have learned how our government works, where the levers of power are. As I discussed, Nancy Pelosi, as an individual, had a tremendous impact on our everyday life. Okay? And now we're going to pick somebody to take her place, and that they're going to have a tremendous impact on our life. Before this mess, very few people even knew who the Speaker of the House was or even cared. And that's when they really got away with a lot of stuff, especially when you go in and intimidate, extort, and bribe the Speaker of the House like they did with Dennis Hastert. I went over that on Nikki's program. He had been fooling around and with somebody way younger than him in an unlawful manner, and that person is ripe for extortion, okay, and being bribed, and the decisions they make affect this entire nation. So, yes, we are seeing a show, but part of it is to educate. And why do we need to do that? So this can never happen again. Okay? So it's a very important show. Scary, but some stages it's entertaining, but mostly educational. Okay? How did it get this way? That's a fair question for us to ask. We need to ask it. We need to answer it. And we need to make sure it doesn't happen again. So, okay, Jungle, I see what you're saying there. He could have been a plant. He could have been a DS plant. Honeypots don't have to be little Chinese girls, okay? And the honeypot is the preferred method. Yeah, McCarthy lost 3 votes. He's going to lose, maybe lose more. But this exercise is what I'm calling it. This exercise is showing us a lot of stuff. And Jim Jordan came out and he supported McCarthy. And within, I guess, 5 minutes of him speaking to the House members, saying he wanted McCarthy in there, and that everybody knows he wants to be on judiciary. Everybody knows he wants to handle investigations, and everybody knows he can do it too. 5 minutes later, Matt Gaetz is putting Jim Jordan up as an opponent to McCarthy after Jordan endorsed McCarthy, after DJT endorsed McCarthy, after Marjorie Taylor Greene endorsed McCarthy. Okay? So it's interesting to see. But they said that Lauren Boebert and somebody else got, they said threatened. They used that term. I don't know if arm twisting or threatened, and it made them very angry. So anyway, we're really shaking things up and getting an interesting look into how the system works. And as Trump, as far as he is concerned, you got to imagine him looking down at this game board, these 400 and however many pieces on the game board, where they're moving, what they're doing, what their strategies are. And inside information certain people are going to be privy to, communications, who's talking to who. Okay? Now, that brings me to Nancy's texts. Did you all hear about Nancy having some text messages released? How'd that happen? How'd we get those? If y'all haven't heard, let's see, our air marshals are being deployed to the border. Oh, okay, well, that'll be the day as far as Al Qaeda doing anything as an air attack. Maybe if they got some drones. But anyway, our border is very, very vulnerable, Wanda. That's a fact. So anyway, Nancy's text messages said, or from her staff, I'm just going from memory, that they texted the sergeant at arms and said, we're going to make some changes to the security on that big day, J, and the other word is 6. And once you see them, act surprised. And he said, I'm surprised, like he was playing along with it. Now I'm going to do a broadcast on that in the future about this sergeant at arms, because he's no longer with us. Okay? He passed away, and the way he did it was suddenly. And as a matter of fact, I've got some articles in my studio where I was going to do a visual broadcast that covered that exact thing. And then we find out that they were bracing the former sergeant at arms to play along with this reduced security. And it's all captured on text messages. Now, how do we get those text messages? I submit to you that for just the reasons I said earlier, all right, we're in a state of conflict with foreign forces, and we have the military has the right at that time to protect this country however they need to do it within the Constitution. And if you've got probable cause, you can go and get communications. You can get text messages. You can search for things. So let me see what's going on in the chats. Rita said that there might be something going on with Al Qaeda in down at the border. I don't know. We will see. And yes, hit the like button. Thank you very much. Does Mr. T have something on all of them? Oh, yeah. We've heard that there was 90% of the people involved in running our country has some problem or another. And that we're doing this strategy so as not to basically remove 90% of the government, causing great upheaval when the people don't know what's going on. That's called strife. Okay, civil unrest and strife, which leads to human suffering. So what we're doing is going through an education process. And a lot of light is being shined on things that have been heretofore dark. So tomorrow they're going to be taking another vote. And I saw in here in the comments where, hi Doug, that Jungle was saying it took 2 months back in the 1800s. Yes, it did. It took 2 months to get a speaker. Now, this was back when the House of Representatives met for about 90 days out of the year. They made sure everything was going okay. We weren't at war. And they passed a few laws here and there, or codified a few, and appointed judges, or did whatever they needed to do. And then they went home to their farms. Okay. Now it's a 365-day political beehive where they're constantly thinking of stuff to dream up to put in the federal freaking register that we have to worry about every minute of every day. What they're up to, when they're going to pass a 3,000-page bill that nobody has read. And then when you do read it, you see what I heard today was they put the ability to put an auto kill switch in all new vehicles, for instance. Okay? In one of the daggone bills they passed, I think it was the one when they snuck that $600 stuff in there, upending everybody who's trying to sell their personal stuff for some supplemental money. It's got to be a federal case now. Nobody saw that coming. But now this auto kill switch, all new vehicles, I think starting 2024, maybe 23, I don't know. They're going to have a switch in there where there is the ability of government agencies to just shut the vehicle down. Okay? If they think you're doing something illegal. All right. Now, what can that turn into? Oh, you're going to a rally for somebody that we feel is working with Russia. Remember that? Russia. We'll shut their car down. Don't let them go to the rally. Okay? Or, oh gosh, we made a mistake. Well, I was stuck in some city 500 miles from home because my car wouldn't start. Sorry, we made a mistake. You know, all kinds of problems can come from that. Never mind little basement dwelling teenage hackers that can get in and wreak havoc. Okay? So, hi, Donna, how are you? So, yeah, back in the 1800s, they took 2 months to come up with a speaker, and that was a tumultuous time. That was during just before the Civil War. I think it was 1859 or something. And when there's a historical event called Bleeding Kansas, if you all want to look that up. And I mean, they were beating each other up on the in the House, and I think a senator got beaten with a cane. It was a little rough. Lone Maple Poultry, you had a 58 Jeep. Good for you. I had a 46, a 47, and I had a 51 Willys truck. You'll know what I'm talking about, Lone Maple, if you own Jeeps and are a Jeep fanatic. So anyway, let's see. New account. Who's that? Just checking through here. Who's got a new account? Anyway, so that's the kind of stuff they're constantly dreaming up. And the old saying is, you look at a bill and say to yourself, what is the worst thing a politician could do to a citizen because of this bill? And they will do it if you pass it. And they say, oh, no, they're not going to shut down people's cars if they're going to a rally. BS. Yes, they will. So that should have never gotten through this business of that is a punishment, okay? That is a I saw one video where a person got charged with kidnapping because they blocked someone in their own driveway. Okay. But it's okay for them to shut our vehicles down. What if there's a malfunction? It happens when you're on a highway where everybody's traveling 75, 80 miles an hour, tractor trailers, and it shuts down and you get squashed like a bug. Oh, wait a minute. Sovereign immunity. I forgot about that. Qualified immunity. I forgot about that. Okay. Is that what they're going to hang their hat on? Is when things keep coming out like this Buffalo player, okay, 24 years old. If I guess I'm right, might have been 27. It was 20 something, a top tier athlete. Are they going to hide behind sovereign immunity because they were doing things that were required under a national emergency? Oh, who made it a national emergency? Just like J6 was the worst day since Pearl Harbor or 9/11. Who made it that way? In other words, are things getting pumped up to intentionally distress people? If you exaggerate and pump up and puff things up in a way so as to affect people's behavior and to put them in a state of distress, we know what that's called. Okay? Don't put it in the chats because it's a keyword. TERR, okay? OR. When you do that, psychological. All right? So, no, we got to find out. We got to find out some answers on that. We had this prosecutor in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I talked about that in my show last night. What did she do? She filed suit against what was that company? J.P. Morgan for financing Epstein after it'd been disclosed what he had done. And they didn't turn in any of the documents they're supposed to concerning illegal dealings. And what happened? Joe went down there to the island, St. Croix, and went on vacation, and she got fired. Okay, Virgin Island prosecutor. What does that remind you of? Son of a from Ukraine. The prosecutor got fired. Now her basis was that J.P. Morgan was complicit because they did not disclose information and they were abetting, assisting this person in criminal activity. So we get to the NFL. What if they don't give us the information on why this person collapsed? Are they doing the same thing that J.P. Morgan was getting ready to be prosecuted for? And are they going to try to cover that up too? Don't the other players deserve the facts as to why this young person collapsed? Don't the fans deserve it? Doesn't humanity deserve the facts when it comes to something like this? And then we can take that and go right back to the beginning. Okay, how did we get here? How did we get here? And some of you who have been watching my broadcast may remember me bringing up a young man named Len Bias, L-E-N, his first name, and Bias, B-I-A-S. Back in the day, I mean 30-some years ago or more than that, shocked the nation when he had a heart attack and died on the basketball court. Len Bias. Now it's happening every foggy day. What was the difference between young athletes then and young athletes now? How could that one person's name, unless they've scrubbed it from the internet like they tried to do Tank Man, You can find out all about it. And that's how everybody knew about the existence, found out the existence of something called crack cocaine. Crack cocaine, which causes your heart to blow up under certain circumstances if you get what's called a hot dose. Okay? So that one death of a promising young athlete shocked the medical community, shocked the sports community around the nation. It even made international news. But now you have that happening on a weekly basis somewhere. Somebody on a sports field is falling over. Okay. And this time you had it happen in front of millions of people on television in the middle of a game where when have you ever seen an ambulance actually come on the field? They gave him CPR for 9 minutes on the field. And I saw a post from a lady who said she was a nurse and she felt that he was lost. He was gone because 9 minutes is way too long to be trying to do CPR. At the very least, there'd be brain damage as a result. That's right, Donna. It's all kinds of sports. And, you can look it up. And if I say those two words together on this platform, it could cause me problems. But we all know that the movie is out, and then you could share it with your normie friends. Don't put it in the chats, please. It's when DIED, okay? And then the second word is suddenly. All you got to do is look that up. And you'll see a video that you can share with your friends. And then tell them the story about Len Bias. Look it up. And you will see that it was so unusual for a healthy young athlete to end up in that condition that it made national news. People talked about it for years, what happened to him. But now the public consciousness, it has been changed through psychological manipulation to where this is supposed to be normal. It's even worse than that, where your 11-year-old boy comes home and says he thinks he's something he's not. That's supposed to be normal too. So it shows you how deep this and effective these psychological operations can be. Manipulation of information, how it can affect the psyche of a nation. We're seeing it ourselves. 10 years ago, you'd have told somebody they needed to go see a doctor, they needed mental help if they thought it was normal for that to be happening. And so suppression of information, all this stuff has got to be found out and looked at. But I tell you, like I said, people don't care unless their own ox is getting gored. So if you tell them about Len Bias and then show them that movie that I just talked about, and they start thinking to themselves about themselves. And I know it sounds selfish, but it's human nature. People don't care unless their ox is getting gored. And they say, wait a minute. This is happening. It is unusual. What's different between now and Len Bias's day? What's been going on? And am I at risk? Okay, or is my family at risk? And they start thinking that way, they're going to start saying, whose fault is this? Okay. And that's why we're going to be coming out with the Twitter drops on the little elf, the malignant dwarf. Okay, the malignant medical dwarf. That's going to be my name for him. Because as I said in the past, Goebbels with the Third Reich was in charge of the Ministry of Truth, and he was known as the malignant dwarf. So these SCOTUS hearings, I put that in there because the one case, there's two cases people were focusing on. One is the Brunson, as we all know, the Brunson, which is coming up the 6th. And the other one I discussed in past broadcasts that there was going to be a decision made, according to DJT, sometime in early December. Okay, that I don't have the name of that case in front of me, but they have agreed to hold hearings on that case. This is the case that is to decide whether state legislatures control an election, or if the decisions made by secretaries of state, CDC, the local post office manager or whatever can make up new methods. Mark Zuckerberg, if he can influence. That's the question in this next case besides Brunson. And that was reviewed by the entire court, and it was decided that they would have formal hearings. Okay? So now that's what I was talking about with Brunson. Yes, they could make a decision on the 6th, and everybody's saying that throw out 300, arrest 308, how many members of Congress, and do all this because there's a chance in heck that could happen, yes. But it's more likely, in my mind, that they are going to say this has merit to the point where we will have hearings. And why is that important? To what we said earlier, putting on a show, an educational program, okay? Because the media has been silent about a lot of things that we discuss every night. That the average person, now that they know it's not that term they coined after President John F. Kennedy lost his life, they coined that term conspiracy theory for anything they wanted to discredit. Now, once we know that these things that we're discussing are not those kinds of theories, the average person's antennas will go up. And the old news from the 50s, 60s, even the early 70s would be all over these stories. But they're silent. So now we're the news. We're the news. And this case is going to be heard by the Supreme Court, where people will learn just what they're learning about the House of Representatives. They're going to find out who the Speaker of the House is. They're going to find out how things work. They're going to find out who's on their side and who's not on their side. Who supports some guy named whatever his name is, Hakeem Jeffries? Who supports somebody with a Marxist-centric ideology that wants dominion over everything you own and everything you do? Versus people who want to enforce the Constitution, which is what their duty is. Okay? So we're getting educated. Every single Democrat voted for this Hakeem person. Okay? And that's being put out before the world. That side of the aisle is for Marxism. Okay? And what's happening to the people of Brazil, they want to happen to us, the entire world. Those people need to be gotten out. All right? But the people need to be awake to it. So that's just like what's going to happen with SCOTUS. How is the news going to be quiet? about these very serious cases. Now, a representative in Arizona came out today and made a statement, a video, discussing exactly what I discussed about 3 or 4 nights ago concerning the standards required to call for a new situation. Now, before I get into that, I want to thank everybody. This is a viewer supported and creator supported broadcast, and I appreciate everybody that's helped me in the past. And I put them up on the board here. It's Aaron, Robin, Kristen, Wanda, Sandy, Norman, Dory, Pamela, Nikki B, Killer Fuzz, somebody 1, somebody 2. I want to give my thanks to everybody, because I tell you, sometimes I get to where I'm like, what in the world? But people show me that they appreciate what I'm doing and come through, and I greatly appreciate it. And everybody that's not in a position to help, to giving me a like or spending your time with me, as I told people before, walking with me through history. I really appreciate it. This is a unique time in human history, and some people may think that's an exaggeration, but what is at stake is our civilization, folks. And what is different between us and Brazil right now at this moment in time is that we have a Supreme Court that is functioning for the most part and taking on these cases, even though we don't have a media that will give us an honest review and educate our fellow citizens about what's going on, which is something a media has responsibility to do. But hopefully this will change all that. But let me get back to this point about this Arizona representative. He's also an attorney. And he brought up the fact that the reasons that the initial judge threw out Kari Lake's complaint were not sufficient, will not hold up under scrutiny, because exactly what we were discussing, the election that got ordered to be redone in Georgia for a little commissioner position in a little county, was that there has to be doubt as to whether a deficiency or a problem could have changed the outcome. That's all you need. Okay? And there is no doubt in the minds of certainly of Lake supporters, Kari Lake supporters, and in my opinion, a fair observer. There is plenty of doubt as to the deficiencies that were proven as fact would give rise to doubt in the accuracy of the outcome as far as what the will of the people were. That's the standard. That is a standard that's been upheld, that is written in the law in Arizona, and also in Georgia is a standard that was set by the state Supreme Court in Georgia. And as I said, judges work on what? Precedent. And I really, part of me, I say, oh my gosh, people are going to think I'm snitching stuff from other creators or whatever. But I really feel good after I do a broadcast and I listen to many people that you listen to too, also, like X22, like and we know things like that, RP78. Okay, a lot of these names that people have been taken off of here, so I got to watch what I'm saying. But they say almost verbatim what I said, and especially when DJT puts out a truth that backs up what I say. Does that mean I got inside information? No, it means I'm on the right wavelength. Okay. And I'm not wasting my time. All right. Down some dark rabbit hole where if I repeat what some people want me to repeat, the people I'm talking to will want to take my temperature, okay, or report me to a medical facility as someone in distress, okay? So we don't want to be that way. We're going through, what did Joe Friday say? Just the facts, ma'am. And so we're looking at a slow process, but a thorough process. And if anybody's ever been to court and you got a lot riding on it, you would much rather it be slow and thorough than quick and shoddy, believe me. Oh, Nikki, I didn't know that. I had a friend of mine whose sister passed away. He was of advanced age, and so was she. I was sitting right next to him when he got the news. She went out to get her mail and was coming back up the walkway and going through her mail, and simply that was it. It was over. And he said, "What a beautiful way to go." No suffering, no anything like that. At the time, I thought, "Well, gee, that I didn't realize until you see somebody struggling." So anyway, let's see what's going on in the chats. Working on the roof, huh, Donna? Yeah. Okay. Digital Hawk says, "I don't listen because I know. I listen because I don't know." That is a very a good thing to say. A lot of people, some people, you get into back and forth with them, and they are too busy thinking about how they want to respond to you, to the point where they don't even to listen to what you're trying to say to them. They're trying to respond to something they haven't even listened to. Do you ever have a conversation with people like that? And I tell people like that I look at them and say, I can tell your brain right now is thinking of what you're going to say to me and not listening to what I'm going to say to you. And I've said before in the past, freedom of speech is the ability to listen, the right to listen. We should have that right. But the thing is that a lot of American people are conditioned, not American people, people around the world are conditioned to willfully not listen. Because why? They think they know it all. Why? Because they listen to a corrupt and foreign influenced media. And what did DJT say about that? That's the first one that's got to get taken care of. The first one is the media. So anyway, so we have these awful stories. It's terrible to see that player collapse. It's terrible as more stories come out, not just 15, 16-year-old girls with island, okay, being covered up. We're finding out now that it's we're down to, with that clothing company, Balenciaga, okay, we're getting down to toddlers, okay? Toddlers. And this stuff is being slowly put before the American people, before the world, really. And Kim Kardashian came out with some kind of post, and she did not disavow that company. And what was she holding in her hand? A slice of Italian food, okay? I think it had pepperoni on it. If you know what I mean. And that is a good example of how they take a fact that is dangerous to them and put stuff out in media to get people to talk about that specific thing, but in such a way that people are not credible. Okay? Pizz, and the last letter is A. Okay? Italian food, a slice of Italian food, gate. Okay? What that was, mostly, is the slang they were using to describe things, to describe little BOIS, little GIRLS, okay, and what they wanted to do, or things like that. That's why they use the terms surrounding that specific Italian food as code words. But what happened? They put out a bunch of stuff on social media about that one specific location, okay, from outer space. It was a comet, okay, a comet from outer space, and a slice of Italian food. They were saying there were tunnels under there. There was experimentation going on under there. Lizard people living under there. All this kind of stuff. And then they got somebody who was mentally deranged to go there with a weapon and commit an act of violence, talking that same stuff. So that relegated PIZZA gate to crazy talking people. See how that works, folks? When they take things that are so outrageous, they talk about the stuff they're trying to hide, but they put stuff so outrageous on top of it so as to encourage people to be talking in a way that discredits them. We're not going to do that here, okay? A specific slice of Italian food. Exactly, Digital Hawk. So, anyway, it's slowly coming out to people. This person named Ray E. We're finding out his attorney is I'm gonna say it like it's spelled. Phoebe. That's how it's spelled, right? Phoebe or Phoebe. Anyway, an F.B.I. agent. Okay. And you have these clips that are coming out about him stirring up people and getting people worked up. You see him standing next to a young person named John is the first name, and the last name, Sullivan, okay, who was with a young lady named Ashley, who lost her life. You see Ray and John together, and you see the videos, and you find out that the mainstream media paid this John S. person $80-some thousand for his videos. You find out that Ray Epps and what he's done. Then you see these text messages with Nancy that I was discussing. All this stuff starts coming out. And there's going to be creators like me and creators a lot better than me that are going to be putting this stuff in such a way that the average person is going to say, what the hell is going on? And they are going to go through this exercise with the House of Representatives to understand how their government functions, how it works, and how many of the people in the government do not support the Constitution and want to turn this country into a Venezuela or Brazil and stop your car whenever they want. Freeze your bank accounts whenever they want. And the majority of the people in this country, once that starts dawning on them, they're not going to be in office anymore. That'll be the end of that faction of the party. So anyway, I appreciate you all spending your time with me. I'm sorry I didn't participate much in the chats. I started pontificating as I often do. I wasn't going to go live tonight, but I did anyway. But this is Mountain Man. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good evening. Over and out.